Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the world of Vikings. Imagine this, the salty air brushing against your face as you stand on the edge of a weather-beaten ship, the ocean stretching endlessly ahead. In the distance, the echoes of thunder are growing louder, but it's not the storm you should fear. It's the battle that awaits. You can almost hear the clash of swords. Feel the adrenaline coursing through your veins. The Vikings were fierce, unstoppable warriors, but even they had their moments of doubt and fear. So, how did they calm themselves before charging into battle? Well, let me tell you, they didn't just sharpen their axes and ready their shields. They relied on something a bit more mystical: runes. These weren't just symbols on wood or stone. They were a part of their very being. The Vikings used runes not only as a form of communication, but also as a tool to calm their nerves before facing death itself. Yes, I'm serious. Those ancient symbols, carefully carved into talismans, shields, and even the ground itself, had the power to bring peace in the chaos. Now, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Is it morning in your part of the world, or are you winding down for the night? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Vikings, those incredible seafarers and warriors, are often remembered for their ruthless raids, their long ships cutting through the waters like sharks hunting prey. But behind the fierce exterior, they were also deeply spiritual people. Every single action they took had meaning, and every decision, no matter how small, was laced with ritual. This was especially true when it came to preparing for battle. Picture it. You've just received word that an enemy force is approaching. You know the battlefield will be bloody, the odds uncertain, and the fear of death is creeping into your bones. What do you do? Well, the Vikings turned to their runes, their mystical script that could influence the forces of fate. These symbols were believed to carry not only messages, but also power, real, tangible power, whether they were drawn in the dirt, etched onto weapons, or even carved into the flesh of warriors. Each rune was an invocation, a plea for protection, strength, and clarity of mind. Historians still argue whether the Vikings truly believed these runes had magical properties, or if they were merely a superstitious practice. Some say that the runes were a form of psychological comfort, like a pre-battle ritual, while others argue that they were part of a deeper belief system tied to the ancient Norse gods. Regardless of the debate, there's no denying that runes were central to the Viking warrior's identity. So let's take a moment to picture one of these runic rituals. You're a Viking warrior, standing on the deck of a longship, the horizons tinged with the orange glow of the setting sun. You feel your heart racing. It's time. You close your eyes for a moment, your fingers tracing the cold wood of your ship, and you whisper a rune under your breath. Maybe it's Ansus, the rune of communication, asking Odin for wisdom, or Tiwas, the rune of courage, reminding you of the strength you carry inside. You repeat it, the sound grounding you, bringing a sense of calm before the chaos erupts. It's not just about the battle, It's about preparing your mind to face what comes next. The Vikings didn't just carve runes for the fun of it. Each symbol was carefully chosen for its meaning. For instance, Raido was the rune of travel and movement, associated with the idea of the journey, both physical and spiritual. Warriors would carve this symbol on their shields or armor as a reminder that they were on a path, not just to battle, but to a greater destiny. And then there's Elhaz, the rune of protection. It was often drawn on shields and weapons, an invocation of the gods to keep harm at bay. Imagine standing on that ship, feeling the wind tug at your cloak, knowing that a symbol of protection is not only on your shield, but in your very soul. Historians have debated the nature of these symbols for centuries, trying to figure out if they were purely psychological or if the Vikings truly believed in the magic behind them. Some scholars argue that the Vikings used runes as a form of pre-battle psychology, helping them focus their minds and boost their morale. Others suggest that these symbols were a way of calling on the gods themselves, tapping into a deeper power for protection and strength. Either way, there's no denying that the Vikings believed in something greater than themselves, whether it was fate, the gods, or simply the power of the runes. But runes weren't the only way the Vikings calmed their nerves before battle. They also relied on something even more ancient and primal, the power of ritual. We'll dive into that next. But for now, just imagine what it must have been like to stand there, on that ship, the runes on your shield, the gods on your side, and the promise of glory waiting just over the horizon. You stand there, breathing in the crisp air, feeling the cool ocean spray on your face. The ship creaks beneath your feet as it drifts with the tide, preparing for a journey that will lead to chaos. The Vikings didn't just take to the seas for riches or conquest. They were driven by something deeper, something spiritual. The gods themselves were believed to walk with them, guiding their way through the waves and into battle. And it wasn't just runes that helped the Vikings find calm in the storm. It was also their rituals, their connection to the divine, that gave them the strength to face the fear that comes with war. Before setting off on a raid, it wasn't uncommon for Viking warriors to gather in sacred spaces, places like groves, forests, or even within the confines of their longships, where they could focus their minds and call upon the gods. These rituals weren't just about pleasing the gods. They were about preparing the warrior mentally and emotionally for what lay ahead. The rituals were a way of calming the storm inside, silencing the fear and the noise so they could enter battle with clarity and resolve. One of the most important deities that Viking warriors turned to in these moments of pre-battle anxiety was Odin, the All-Father himself. He was the god of wisdom, war, and death, and he was known to give his followers the courage they needed to face even the most terrifying of circumstances. But Odin wasn't just a god of strength. He was also a god of strategy and insight. The Vikings believed that by invoking Odin's presence, they could gain not only the strength to fight, but the wisdom to understand the battlefield and the foresight to anticipate the enemy's moves. Historians still argue over how deeply the Vikings believed in Odin's power during these rituals. Some scholars suggest that Odin's influence was more about providing mental fortitude, helping the warriors center themselves and clear their minds of doubt. Others believe that Odin's presence was felt more literally, that the Vikings truly believed he would give them insight and protection on the battlefield. Either way, the act of calling upon Odin was an essential part of their mental preparation before battle. The rituals varied, of course, depending on the region and the specific clan. Some Vikings would carve runes into the ground or their shields, invoking Odin's wisdom and protection. Others might engage in quiet meditation, silently contemplating their upcoming journey and the fate that awaited them. There was no one-size-fits-all approach. Each warrior had his own way of finding calm before the storm, but Odin wasn't the only figure invoked in these moments of nervous anticipation. The Vikings also turned to the goddess Freya, the goddess of love, fertility, and war. Freya was a fierce warrior in her own right, and she was known for her ability to grant warriors the bravery and resolve needed to face the unknown. Freya's presence in Viking rituals served to remind warriors that there was more to battle than bloodshed. It was also about love for the land, the people, and the warriors they fought alongside. Imagine, for a moment, standing in a sacred grove, surrounded by your comrades. The air is thick with the scent of pine and earth, the silence broken only by the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. You close your eyes, whispering a prayer to Freya, calling upon her strength and guidance. You can almost feel her presence, as if she's standing right beside you, ready to fight by your side. The calm you feel in that moment is not just a fleeting sensation. It's a connection to something ancient and powerful, something that allows you to face the terror of battle with a steady heart. Historians still debate whether the Vikings' rituals were more than just psychological exercises, or whether they truly believed in the divine presence of the gods. Some suggest that these rituals were designed to calm the warrior's nerves, giving him the mental clarity needed to face the chaos ahead. Others argue that these rituals were an essential part of Viking spirituality, a way of invoking the gods to ensure their protection and favor in battle. Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: the Vikings were a people deeply connected to their beliefs, and these rituals played a crucial role in their preparation for war. In addition to these sacred rituals, there were also physical acts that the Vikings performed to prepare for battle. One such practice involved the use of a special type of oil made from herbs and plants that was said to calm the nerves and soothe the muscles before a fight. This oil was often rubbed into the skin, particularly on the arms and legs, as a way of preparing the body for the physical demands of battle. While this may seem like a small thing, it speaks to the Vikings' holistic approach to war. They didn't just prepare their minds and spirits, they also took care of their bodies in ways that helped them stay calm and focused. Imagine applying this soothing oil, feeling the cool liquid seep into your skin, calming your muscles, preparing you for the fight that lies ahead. It's not just about physical preparation. It's about finding balance, aligning body, mind, and spirit so that you can face whatever comes with strength and clarity. In many ways, these rituals, both physical and spiritual, served to calm the Viking warriors' nerves, turning the chaos of battle into something that could be faced with calmness and resolve. Historians still argue over the specifics of these rituals. Did the Vikings truly believe that the oils had magical properties? Or were they simply a way of preparing the body for the demands of battle? Some scholars suggest that these rituals were symbolic, a way of aligning the warrior's body and mind with the divine forces that guided them. Others argue that these oils, combined with the calming effects of ritual, helped create a sense of calm and focus in the midst of the chaos. The world of the Vikings is often painted in bold strokes: raiders, warriors, and conquerors who reveled in battle. But beneath the fierce exterior was a layer of depth that many overlook. It wasn't just the physical preparation or the mental rituals that made a Viking warrior ready for battle. There was also the ever-present connection to nature, to the sacred spaces where they sought calm before the storm. These natural places weren't simply random spots in the forest. They were spiritual sanctuaries where the forces of nature and the divine converged to help Vikings prepare their hearts and minds. In ancient Norse culture, groves and sacred trees were considered more than just parts of the landscape. They were the gateways to the gods. One of the most famous sacred trees was Yggdrasil, the immense tree that stood at the center of the world. But beyond the mythological realm, the Vikings believed that the natural world could influence their destiny, and they turned to nature for solace in moments of fear and doubt. Before heading off into battle, Viking warriors often sought refuge in these groves, grounding themselves in the earth's energy and calling upon the gods for strength. The act of standing before an ancient oak tree, feeling its ancient bark beneath your fingers, would help to steady your heart and mind. Historians still debate the role of these natural sanctuaries in the Viking rituals. Some argue that the groves were simply places of refuge where warriors could find quiet away from the chaos of daily life. Others believe that these sacred spaces were deeply tied to the gods, places where the veil between the mortal and divine worlds was thinner, allowing the Vikings to make direct contact with their deities, regardless of the exact belief. It's clear that these rituals connected the Vikings to something larger than themselves, something that helped them calm their minds and find the courage to face battle. Imagine standing in the middle of one of these sacred groves. The air is thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. The sun filters through the leaves above, casting a dappled light on the ground beneath your feet. You close your eyes, taking a deep breath, and suddenly you feel an overwhelming sense of peace. For a moment, the weight of the world, of battle, of fear, of death, lifts from your shoulders. It's just you and the tree, the gods watching over you. In this moment, you are calm, ready to face whatever lies ahead. But it wasn't just nature that the Vikings turned to for calm before battle. It was also their sense of community. The bond between Viking warriors was unlike any other. The bond of brotherhood wasn't just something they spoke of. It was something they lived by. Before going into battle, Vikings would often gather together, sharing in rituals, prayers, and a communal sense of preparation. This brotherhood, this collective support, helped warriors face the fear of battle. They knew that they weren't alone, that their brothers in arms were with them, both in spirit and in body. Historians often note that Viking warriors were fiercely loyal to one another, forming tight-knit groups that fought together for years. This sense of camaraderie was crucial in preparing for battle. Warriors could look to each other for strength, for a sense of solidarity. Before a battle, these warriors would often share a meal together, drink to their victories, and exchange stories of past triumphs. These moments weren't just about camaraderie, they were about preparing for the emotional toll that battle would take. In the calm before the storm, the Viking warriors built each other up, reinforcing the idea that they were not just fighting for themselves, but for their brothers and for their people. Historians still argue about the extent to which Viking warriors depended on this brotherhood. Some suggest that the bonds were formed out of necessity. After all, when you're about to face your death on the battlefield, who else would you trust but your comrades? Others believe that these bonds were a reflection of Viking values, where loyalty to one's comrades was a sacred duty. Either way, the communal aspect of Viking culture was crucial in helping warriors face the chaos and fear of battle. Now, as you stand there, in that sacred grove, surrounded by your brothers in arms, you begin to feel a sense of peace settle over you. You know that you aren't alone, that the warriors beside you will stand strong in the face of whatever challenges come your way. Together, you will face the enemy, the fear, and the uncertainty. And as the grove's quiet energy seeps into your bones, you feel a calmness that allows you to embrace the battle with confidence. This bond, this deep sense of unity, wasn't just reserved for the moments before battle. It was something that the Vikings carried with them throughout their lives. And that's exactly what you need to carry with you now. The calmness of the grove, the solidarity of your brothers, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing that you're not alone. The fear will still come, of course, but when you have these rituals, this connection to something greater, the fear doesn't seem so overwhelming. Historians are still unsure exactly how much these pre-battle rituals helped the Vikings face their fears, but one thing is certain: they gave them a sense of purpose and strength that went beyond mere survival. Whether it was the calming effect of nature, the power of runes, or the unshakable bond of brotherhood, these rituals played a crucial role in preparing Viking warriors for battle. As you stand among your fellow warriors, a quiet calm settles over you, the ritual of nature and brotherhood filling your heart. The feeling isn't something you've quite experienced before. It's not a complete absence of fear, but rather a sense of acceptance, like the calmness that settles just before a thunderstorm. You know the storm is coming, but you're ready for it. The Vikings didn't just rely on external rituals to prepare their minds for battle. They also understood the power of the mind itself, how their internal focus and strength could shape the outcome of what awaited them. One of the most fascinating aspects of Viking pre-battle rituals is the use of Seder, a form of Norse magic that was often used to influence fate. Cider wasn't just about casting spells or invoking spirits. It was a way of manipulating the world around them, including their own emotions. The Viking seeresses, known as vulvas, would lead rituals that involved trance-like states, chanting, and sometimes even the consumption of mind-altering substances to enter a heightened state of awareness. In this state, warriors could mentally prepare for battle, calming their nerves and centering themselves by connecting to the divine forces that governed the universe. Historians are still divided about the true nature of Seder. Some suggest it was simply a form of psychological preparation, a method for entering a meditative state that helped warriors focus and overcome fear. Others argue that it was a powerful form of magic, capable of influencing the very fabric of reality. What we do know is that Seder was deeply connected to the Vikings' belief in fate and destiny. They believed that by calling upon the gods, especially the goddess Freya, they could influence the outcome of the battle. By engaging in Seder, they could align themselves with the cosmic flow of the universe, making them not just warriors, but instruments of fate itself. Imagine for a moment that you're sitting around the fire, the crackling flames illuminating the faces of your comrades. The vulva enters the circle, her voice low and hypnotic as she chants the ancient words of Cider. The air seems to thicken around you, the world growing quiet except for her voice and the soft rhythm of the drums in the background. Your eyes begin to feel heavy, your mind growing still. The fear you once felt about the upcoming battle begins to fade, replaced by a quiet certainty. You are part of something larger, something that has been set in motion since the dawn of time. You are no longer just a man going into battle. You are a vessel of fate, a chosen instrument of the gods. Historians still argue whether the Vikings believed that cider could actually change the outcome of a battle. Some suggest that it was more of a confidence booster, a way to create mental clarity before entering the chaos of war. Others believe that cedar had a much more tangible effect, with the power to influence the actions of gods and men alike. Either way, it's clear that this form of Norse magic played a crucial role in the Vikings' preparation, helping them overcome the anxiety and fear that often accompany battle. But the Vikings didn't just rely on magic or divine intervention. They also understood the importance of physical preparation. As you prepare for battle, you can feel the weight of your armor against your body, the cold metal pressing against your skin. The Vikings were known for their strong, resilient bodies, and much of this came from their rigorous physical training. Before heading into battle, they would engage in physical activities that helped them build strength, endurance, and agility. These exercises weren't just about fitness, they were also about building confidence, about feeling physically ready to face the enemy. The Vikings understood that physical strength and mental clarity were deeply intertwined. A warrior who felt strong in his body was also a warrior who felt strong in his mind. This physical preparation was an essential part of Viking life, and it wasn't just limited to training for battle. The Vikings were a people who relied heavily on physical labor. Farming, sailing, and crafting were all physically demanding tasks. They believed that the body was a reflection of the mind, and that by taking care of the body, they could also take care of the soul. In a way, the physical preparation for battle was just as important as the mental and spiritual rituals they engaged in. A warrior who could lift his sword with ease and move fluidly in his armor was a warrior who would face battle with confidence, not fear. Historians still debate the extent to which physical training played a role in the Vikings' pre-battle rituals. Some suggest that the Vikings relied heavily on physical prowess, believing that a strong body was the key to success in battle. Others argue that the mental and spiritual aspects of preparation were more important, with physical training serving as just one part of a much larger picture. What we do know is that the Vikings understood the connection between body and mind, and that both had to be prepared in order to face the horrors of battle with courage and resolve. As you finish your preparations, you stand in front of your comrades, the firelight flickering in their eyes. You feel the weight of your shield and sword, the familiarity of the equipment that has been with you through countless battles. You know what's coming, but instead of fear, you feel a quiet sense of peace. The rituals, the cider, the brotherhood, and the physical preparation have all come together, helping you find the calm you need to face what lies ahead. There's no more doubt, no more anxiety. You are ready. You are a Viking warrior, and you will not falter. The time has come. The calm you have built within yourself now pulses through your veins, stronger than any weapon you could hold. The fire has dimmed, the chanting has quieted, and the air seems to hum with the energy of the moment. Your shield is in hand, your sword at your side, and your comrades are gathered around you, each one preparing in their own way. The bond between you and your brothers is unbreakable, forged in the heat of battle, and here, on the edge of the world, that bond has become your strength. But as you stand there, ready for the clash, there's a lingering thought in the back of your mind. You've done everything you could to prepare. The runes have been carved, the rituals have been performed, the magic has been invoked, and yet, still, the question remains, what if you fail? What if, despite all the preparation, the gods don't show up? The Vikings, like all warriors, understood that fear was an inherent part of war. It wasn't something that could be completely erased through rituals or physical preparation. No matter how much you believed in the power of the runes, no matter how many times you invoked Odin or Freya, there was always the chance that you wouldn't make it out alive. But that was the essence of being a Viking warrior. It wasn't about avoiding death, it was about embracing it. Historians still argue whether the Vikings' approach to death was rooted in fatalism or bravery. Some suggest that the Vikings believed their deaths were predestined, written in the runes by the gods themselves. Others argue that their acceptance of death was a product of their warrior culture, where living a life of glory was considered far more important than living a long one. Either way, the Vikings had a unique relationship with fear and death, and that relationship played a key role in their mental preparation for battle. You're standing on the edge of that battlefield, now your heart pounding, the sound of your breath, the only thing you can hear over the noise of the world. The war cries of your comrades mix with the distant sounds of the enemy. Your grip tightens on your shield, and you can feel the weight of your sword in your hand. But it's not just the weight of the weapon, it's the weight of everything that has led to this moment. Every ritual, every prayer, every rune carved into your skin and your shield, it's all been building to this. And now, with the calmness you've cultivated in your heart, you take that first step onto the battlefield. The clash comes quickly. The noise, the chaos, the fury of the moment all rushes toward you like a wave. And yet, It's as if you've stepped into another world. The fear that once gripped your heart is gone, replaced by something deeper, something primal. You are here, you are now, and you are not alone. You are a part of something much larger than yourself. And the weight of the world, the weight of the battle, is no longer yours to carry alone. Historians often point out that Viking warriors, despite their fearsome reputation, were not immune to the chaos of battle. They knew that war was unpredictable, and that even the most carefully laid plans could be undone in an instant. But it was this very unpredictability that gave their battles meaning. A warrior who embraced the unknown, who faced the fear of death with courage, was a warrior who had nothing to lose. It was that acceptance of chaos that made the Vikings so dangerous and so effective in battle. But it wasn't just the act of fighting that calmed the Viking warriors. It was the sense of control they had over their destiny. In many ways, the Vikings understood the importance of embracing the uncontrollable aspects of life. They believed that by accepting their fate, they could achieve victory, not just on the battlefield, but in the spiritual realm as well. To die in battle was not a loss, it was an honor. A warrior who died with his sword in hand was a warrior who had lived a full life. This connection between life, death, and battle was central to Viking warrior culture. It wasn't just about surviving the fight. It was about living and dying with purpose, with honor. The Vikings believed that the gods watched over them, guiding their actions, and that their deeds in battle would determine their place in the afterlife. To die bravely, with the runes on your shield and your brothers by your side, was to secure your place in Valhalla, the Hall of the Slain, where Odin himself awaited you. So, as the battle rages on around you, you fight with everything you have, not just for your survival, but for the honor of your people, your gods, and your comrades. The fear that once gripped your heart has been replaced with something much more powerful: resolve. The battle is chaos, it's uncertainty, but you are ready for it. Your preparation, both mental and physical, has led you to this moment. Historians argue about how much Viking warriors truly believed in the afterlife and Valhalla. Some suggest that it was a comforting belief, a way to make sense of the brutal reality of their lives. Others believe that the Vikings' belief in Valhalla was a driving force behind their willingness to embrace death. Either way, it's clear that this belief helped them face battle with a unique sense of purpose. And now, as you stand in the thick of battle, sword raised and shield at the ready, you feel it, the calm within the storm. You've embraced the chaos, the fear, and the uncertainty, and in doing so, you've found your purpose. This is what it means to be a Viking warrior. The battlefield around you is chaos incarnate, the clash of metal, the cries of men, the pounding of feet on the earth. It's all happening so fast, yet in the midst of it, there's a strange sense of clarity. You're no longer just a man fighting for survival. You've become a part of the larger rhythm, an instrument in the battle that unfolds like a wild, uncontrollable storm. The fear that once held you back is now nothing but a whisper in the back of your mind, drowned out by the roar of the battle and the steady rhythm of your movements. You feel your muscles working in tandem with your mind, The sword in your hand, an extension of your will. Every swing, every block, every parry, it's as if your body knows exactly what to do. You've trained for this, prepared for it in ways that go far beyond the physical. The rituals, the runes, the satyr, everything has led to this moment. And now, it's just you, your brothers, and the chaos of battle. Historians still debate what truly drove the Vikings in battle. Some suggest that it was a lust for conquest, a desire to claim new lands and riches. Others argue that it was more than that, something deeper, something spiritual. The Vikings, they say, were not just warriors. They were men who believed in their fate, who saw themselves as vessels of the gods, carrying out their will on earth. The battle wasn't just about victory. It was about proving their worth to the gods, earning their place in Valhalla, the great hall where warriors feasted and fought forever. As the battle rages on, you begin to understand what this really means. It's not just about survival. It's about living with honor. Every strike, every moment of bravery is a step closer to the afterlife you've always heard about in the sagas, that glorious afterlife where the greatest warriors are chosen to dine with Odin himself. You fight not just for your life, but for a place among the greatest. But there's more to it than just glory and honor. As the battle continues, something shifts within you. You realize that the true power of the Viking warrior wasn't just in the ability to fight, but in the strength to face the fear of battle, to step into the unknown, and to still find peace in the chaos. It's in that moment of calm before the storm, when you've prepared your mind and spirit, when the runes have been carved and the rituals performed, that you truly understand the Viking warrior's path. It's not about living without fear. It's about living in spite of it. The Vikings knew that fear was a natural part of life, but it didn't have to control them. By turning to the runes, to the gods, and to the rituals of their ancestors, they learned to confront their fear head on. The rituals didn't make the fear go away. They simply gave the warrior the tools to face it, and in doing so, gain strength from it. The great Viking poet Snorri Sturluson once wrote about the courage of the Vikings, describing their warriors as men who feared neither death nor hardship. But it wasn't just blind courage that made them great. It was the understanding that fear was inevitable, and that the only way to deal with it was to confront it head on. The Viking warrior didn't seek to avoid fear. He embraced it, knowing that to face it was to prove his worth. As the battle continues, you see the results of that preparation. The fear that once held you back is gone. You move with purpose, with confidence, each action purposeful, and with a calm that comes from deep within. You know that the outcome of the battle is uncertain, but it no longer matters. You are part of something greater, a part of the will of the gods, and in that moment, it's enough. In many ways, the Vikings were warriors, not just of the body, but of the mind and spirit. Their rituals, their runes, and their belief in the gods were all part of a larger philosophy that helped them face the chaos of battle. It wasn't enough to just be strong physically. They had to be strong mentally and spiritually as well, and that was where the true power of the Vikings lay. The Vikings didn't just go to war. They went to war with purpose, with meaning. Every battle was an opportunity to prove themselves worthy of the gods, to earn a place in Valhalla. They didn't fight for glory alone. They fought for something deeper, something eternal. And that belief, that understanding of their place in the world, gave them a strength that went beyond mere physical ability. It gave them the strength to face fear, to embrace the unknown, and to find peace in the midst of chaos. Historians still argue about the exact nature of the Vikings' belief in the afterlife and the gods. Some say it was a way to cope with the brutality of their lives, a way to find meaning in the violence that was such a part of their world. Others argue that it was a deeply held belief, one that shaped every aspect of Viking culture and warfare. Either way, there's no denying the power of that belief, the strength it gave the Vikings, and the way it allowed them to find peace in the midst of chaos. As the battle finally begins to quiet down, you find yourself standing in the middle of the field, your breath heavy, but your heart calm. The battle is over, but the journey isn't. You've faced your fear, you've embraced the chaos, and you've done so with honor. And as the quiet settles around you, the realization hits. You're no longer just a warrior. You've become a part of something much larger, something eternal. The aftermath of the battle feels surreal, as if time has slowed and the noise has faded into the background. The once din-filled battlefield is now eerily quiet, save for the sounds of breathing, footsteps, and the faint, distant cries of the wounded. As you stand there, taking in the scene around you, you feel a mixture of emotions: relief, pride, and even sorrow. The gods, you believe, have watched over you today, and now you must carry the weight of the fallen. The rituals, the runes, and the preparation that guided you through the chaos of battle have not only given you strength, they've given you a sense of purpose, a deeper understanding of what it means to be a Viking warrior. In Viking culture, the afterlife was as much a part of daily life as the battles they fought. The belief in Valhalla was not a distant, abstract idea. It was something immediate, something tangible. To die with honor was the ultimate goal. It wasn't just a matter of survival, but of proving oneself worthy of the gods. And as you look around at the battlefield, at your fallen comrades, you can almost feel their spirits there with you, watching over the victory they helped achieve. They too are on their way to Valhalla. Historians often focus on the violent nature of Viking raids and warfare, but they often overlook the reverence with which the Vikings viewed death. Death was not feared, it was embraced, as long as it was met with courage. The Vikings didn't see death as an end, but as a transition into something greater. For them, dying in battle meant being chosen by Odin to join the great feast in Valhalla, where they would fight and feast for eternity. It was a reward, not a punishment. A warrior who fell in battle was considered the ultimate victor, chosen by the gods themselves. As you walk through the battlefield, you notice the bodies of your comrades, their faces now peaceful in death. You can almost hear the ancient songs sung by the skalds, the bards of the Viking world, singing of their bravery and their sacrifices. The battle may be over, but the stories of these warriors will live on forever. They will join the great halls of Valhalla, where they will feast with Odin and prepare for the battles yet to come. And though you've survived today, there's no denying that one day you too will join them in the halls of the gods. Historians still debate the significance of the Viking afterlife and the role it played in their culture. Some suggest that it was a way to cope with the brutality of their lives, a way to find meaning in the violence that was such a part of their world. Others argue that it was a deeply held belief, one that shaped every aspect of Viking culture and warfare. Either way, there's no denying the importance of this belief in shaping the Viking warrior's mindset. The promise of Valhalla was a driving force, a belief that helped them face the chaos of battle with courage and strength. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, you and your surviving comrades gather together, the weight of the battle still heavy on your shoulders. You may have won today, but the cost was high. The losses are felt deeply, even as the joy of victory takes hold. There's a somberness in the air, a reminder that victory always comes with a price. But in the Viking world, that price was worth paying. The promise of Valhalla, of eternal glory and honor, made every battle, every sacrifice, meaningful. And as you sit around the fire with your comrades, you feel a deep sense of pride, not just in your survival, but in the strength of your brothers, the strength of your people, and the strength of your beliefs. The night falls over the battlefield, and you feel a sense of peace that you haven't felt in a long time. The chaos of battle is over, and the rituals, the runes, and the prayers have done their work. The fear that once held you back is gone, replaced by a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've lived with honor. The journey is far from over, but for now, you can rest. The gods are watching over you, and the spirits of your fallen comrades are with you, guiding you forward. Historians still debate the precise role of Viking rituals in the afterlife, but there is no doubt that these rituals were an essential part of the Viking warrior's life. From the runes to the satyr, from the sacred groves to the belief in Valhalla, these practices helped the Vikings prepare for battle in mind, body, and spirit. They were not just warriors. They were men who embraced death with courage and dignity, knowing that their lives were part of a larger, eternal cycle. As you lay down for the night, the warmth of the fire flickering beside you, you feel a deep sense of peace. You've faced the chaos of battle, you've faced your fears, and you've emerged victorious. The fear may come again in the future, but for now, you are at peace. You are a Viking warrior, chosen by the gods, and nothing can take that from you. As the cold night settles in, the warmth of the fire becomes a comforting presence. You hear the sounds of your comrades settling down around you, some talking quietly, others lost in their own thoughts. The events of the day replay in your mind, each moment unfolding with clarity. Now that the battle has ended, there is still so much to process, so many emotions to sift through. But for now, you have time to breathe, to sit with your thoughts, and to reflect on what this victory truly means. In the Viking world, moments like these were sacred. The warrior's journey didn't end with the clash of swords. It continued in the quiet aftermath, in the time spent with brothers in arms, sharing stories and reflecting on what had passed. The Vikings didn't just fight battles, they lived a warrior's life, a life where every victory was followed by contemplation, by the sharing of experiences and wisdom, and by the understanding that each battle was a part of something much larger than any one individual. They understood that while battle was an essential part of life, it was also fleeting, and the true measure of a warrior's life came in how he embraced the entirety of his journey. Historians still argue about the significance of these quiet moments in Viking culture. Some suggest that these reflective periods were just as important as the battles themselves, helping warriors to maintain balance and stay grounded in their purpose. Others believe that the Vikings used these moments to honor their fallen comrades, remembering them and making sure their stories lived on. Either way, it's clear that these moments of peace and reflection were vital to the Viking warrior's mindset. They served as a way to process the intensity of battle and to reaffirm one's place in the ongoing cycle of life, death, and honor. As you sit there, gazing into the fire, you begin to realize just how much you've changed. The fear you once had, fear of death, fear of battle, has been replaced by something deeper, understanding. The runes, the rituals, the moments of calm before the storm, they've all played their part. But it's the knowledge that you are part of something greater that truly gives you strength. You are not just a Viking warrior fighting for survival. You are part of the eternal cycle, a cycle that has existed since the beginning of time and will continue long after you are gone. This understanding doesn't make the fear disappear, but it makes it bearable. It gives you the clarity to step forward no matter what the future holds. The night grows quiet and your mind begins to drift. The words of the skalds, the bards of the Viking world, echo in your thoughts. They speak of warriors who fought with honor, who lived with purpose, and who faced death with courage. The stories of these warriors, their deeds, their bravery, and their sacrifices will live on long after the flames have burned out and the battle has been won. They will be sung of in the halls of Valhalla, where the greatest warriors feast with Odin. And in that moment, you realize something profound. You too are part of those stories. Your deeds will be sung of, your name will be remembered, and your journey will be passed down through the generations. Historians still debate the role of the skalds in Viking society. Some suggest that they were simply entertainers, providing entertainment for the warriors after a long day of battle. Others argue that they played a much deeper role in Viking culture, serving as the keepers of history and the voices of the gods. Whether they were storytellers or priests, the skalds were central to the Vikings' understanding of their own place in the world. Through their songs, they helped the warriors understand the significance of their actions, of their sacrifices, and of their place in the larger tapestry of life. The realization that your name, your actions, will be sung about in the future brings a strange sense of peace. You've lived through the battle, and you've survived. But it's not just survival that matters. It's how you live, how you face the fear, how you fight, and how you carry the legacy of your ancestors forward. The strength you've gained from the rituals, the runes, and the brotherhood of the Vikings is something that will carry you through life, no matter what comes next. In the quiet, with only the fire and the sounds of the night around you, you close your eyes, your breathing slows, and for the first time in a long time, you feel a sense of calm that comes from within. The battle is over, and tomorrow will bring new challenges. But for tonight, you can rest knowing that you have done your part, that you have faced the fear and come out stronger. You are a Viking warrior, and no matter what happens, you are part of a legacy that will never be forgotten. Historians still argue about the true nature of the Viking warrior spirit. Was it defined by honor, by the drive for glory, or by something deeper? Some suggest that it was the sense of fate that drove the Vikings, the knowledge that they were part of a grand cosmic cycle. Others believe that it was their unshakable belief in the gods and their afterlife in Valhalla that gave them strength. Whatever the truth may be, it's clear that the Vikings possessed a unique mentality, a mindset that allowed them to face death with courage, to fight with honor, and to live with purpose. As you lie there in the quiet of the night, you realize that the true battle is not one fought on the battlefield. It's the battle within, the fight to live with honor, to face fear with courage, and to understand your place in the grand cycle of life. This is what makes a Viking warrior. And as you close your eyes, you know that in this moment, you have done exactly that. As you wake the next morning, the quiet stillness of the aftermath wraps around you like a blanket. The sounds of battle have faded, and the air feels crisp, untouched by the frenzy of yesterday. The night was long, but it was filled with a kind of peace that only comes after a storm has passed. The fire is dying down, its embers glowing softly in the early morning light. You sit up, feeling the coolness of the earth beneath you, your body still stiff from the fight, but your mind clearer than it's been in days. It's a new day, and with it comes the reality of what has passed. But more importantly, it brings the reality of what's to come. In Viking culture, the battle wasn't just a single moment in time. It was a continuous cycle. Every victory, every defeat, every day spent preparing, fighting, and living was a part of something greater. The Vikings didn't just look to the gods for strength in battle, they looked to them for guidance in every aspect of life. For the Viking warrior, the daily journey was just as important as the fight itself. And now, as you rise and stretch, you begin to understand the weight of that truth. The ritual of battle may have ended, but the ritual of living continues. Historians often note that the Vikings had a unique view of time. They didn't see it as a linear progression, but as a cyclical experience. Life, death, and rebirth in an endless loop. This view is reflected in their mythology, in the concept of Ragnarok, the end of the world, followed by a new beginning. This belief in cycles wasn't just about the afterlife, it was about the constant ebb and flow of life itself. Every moment, every action was connected to the larger cosmic dance. The battle you fought yesterday was only one part of this dance, and now, in the quiet of the morning, you are reminded that your journey is far from over. As you make your way toward the campfire, where your comrades are already beginning to stir, you notice the slight shift in the air. The tension of battle has evaporated, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and relief. The warriors who fought by your side are now sharing quiet words, their faces tired but peaceful. It's in these moments, after the chaos, that the true bond of brotherhood reveals itself. The battle may be over, but the bond you share with your brothers will last forever. Historians still debate whether Viking warriors were motivated by a sense of personal glory or the desire for communal strength. Some suggest that the Vikings were fiercely individualistic, driven by the need to prove themselves in battle and earn their place in Valhalla. Others argue that the Vikings were more community-focused, that their strength came from their unshakable loyalty to one another. Either way, it's clear that the bonds between warriors were vital to their success. In battle, as in life, it wasn't just about fighting alone. It was about fighting together. As you sit with your brothers, sharing a meal and reflecting on the day's events, you begin to realize that the battle is just one part of the larger journey. The fear, the rituals, the fight, it all leads to this. It leads to the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the shared experience of living and dying with honor. The Vikings didn't just fight for land or glory. They fought for each other, for the future, and for the legacy they would leave behind. The quiet of the morning, the fire crackling softly, brings a sense of peace. You've faced death, and you've come through it. But more importantly, you've faced your own fears, your own doubts, and come out the other side stronger. The rituals you performed, the runes you carved, the gods you invoked, they all helped guide you through the chaos. But it was your own strength, your own courage, that carried you to the victory you now share with your brothers. As the sun begins to rise higher, casting a golden light over the battlefield, you can't help but reflect on the lessons learned. Every warrior who stood with you, every ritual, every rune, every act of courage, all of it has shaped you. You are no longer just a man preparing for battle. You're a part of something much larger, a part of the Viking way of life, where honor, strength, and bravery are the foundation of existence. And that understanding, that realization, is the true victory. Historians have often noted the deep spiritual connection the Vikings had with their gods, especially the god Odin. They saw Odin as not just a war god, but a god of wisdom, a guide through the chaos of life and death. It wasn't just about fighting. It was about understanding the world, understanding your place in it, and making the most of every moment. The Vikings didn't just seek to survive. They sought to live with meaning, to find purpose in their battles, and to create a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. As you sit there, surrounded by your brothers, you understand that the true test of a Viking warrior is not how he faces battle, but how he faces life. It's not about avoiding fear. It's about embracing it, understanding it, and using it to fuel your journey. You have fought the battle, and now you will continue to fight the battle of life, armed with the strength of your ancestors, the power of the runes, and the wisdom of the gods. The journey is far from over. There will be more battles, more challenges, more moments of fear and doubt. But with each challenge, you will grow stronger, wiser, and more at peace with your place in the world. This is the Viking way. This is the way of the warrior. The day is fully upon you now. The sun is high, the warmth of its rays bringing life to the once dim battlefield. The silence from the night has been replaced by the sounds of birds, the movement of warriors preparing for the next steps. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? To survive, to have come through the storm of battle and into the calm that follows. There's a sense of detachment now, as if you're living a moment that feels both distant and close at the same time. You're still here, but the world around you has shifted. The fight is over, but the journey continues. As you move through the camp, you notice your brothers, just like you, taking a moment to adjust to the quiet that now fills the space. The day after battle is a strange thing for a Viking warrior. It's not a time to rest, in the usual sense, nor is it a time for celebration. Instead, it's a time for reflection, for contemplating the meaning of what has passed. Victory has its own price, and for the Viking, the true work begins only after the battle is won. Historians often note that the Vikings didn't glorify war for the sake of war. They glorified it because it was a means of achieving something larger. War was, for them, a test of both physical and spiritual strength. The rituals, the prayers, the use of runes, the constant connection to the gods, they weren't just tools for winning battles. They were the foundation of the Viking warriors' way of life. To be a Viking was to embrace the ebb and flow of life and death, to accept both as part of the journey. It wasn't about running from death, but about facing it with the calm acceptance that your journey would not be defined by how long you lived, but by how you lived each moment. In moments like these, when the dust of battle has settled, you begin to realize the full extent of the journey you're on. You're not just here for the fight, for the glory, or for the victory. You're here to live each moment with purpose, to fight with meaning, and to ensure that when your time comes, you've left a legacy that transcends death itself. The runes, the rituals, and the belief in the gods weren't just ways to win. They were ways to understand, to make sense of the world around you. They were the compass by which you navigated the chaos of life and death. The quiet after battle brings a kind of solemn understanding. The warriors around you don't speak much, but the silence speaks volumes. They, too, are reflecting on what they've just lived through. The victory is not something they celebrate loudly, for it's tempered by the losses they've faced. It's always like this, isn't it? The Vikings understand the balance. Victory comes with the price of life, and the understanding of that price is what makes them strong. The understanding that life and death are two sides of the same coin. As you sit by the campfire once again, looking out over the land that will now bear the scars of battle, you feel that sense of quiet acceptance. The battle is over, and now it's time to live with what has happened, to honor the fallen and carry on the legacy of those who fought with you. This is what the Vikings did. They took their experiences, their victories, and losses, and turned them into stories. Stories that would be passed down for generations. The skalds, the bards who told these stories, were the ones who gave meaning to the battles. They were the ones who transformed every victory and loss into something eternal. The Vikings weren't just warriors. They were creators of stories, of legacies that lived long after their deaths. Historians often point to this as one of the greatest contributions of the Viking culture. Their ability to turn the events of their lives into myths, sagas, and songs allowed their stories to transcend time. The Vikings understood that it wasn't just about what you did in life, it was about how you were remembered. Now, as you sit there, surrounded by your brothers, the fire crackling before you, you realize the true weight of that legacy. The day after battle is not a day of rest, but a day of reflection. The victory you've won is not just yours. It belongs to those who fought beside you, those who fell, and those who will continue the journey. You are part of something larger, something eternal. The fire before you, the warmth it provides, is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is light to be found. Even after the battle, there is life to be lived. Historians often say that the Viking warrior's true strength wasn't just in his ability to fight, it was in his ability to understand the cycle of life, to see death not as an end, but as a continuation. The journey didn't stop with battle. It continued in the hearts and minds of those left behind. And in that way, the Viking warrior was truly immortal. His story, his life, his battles, they lived on through the sagas, through the stories told around campfires, through the songs sung by the skalds. The quiet after battle allows you to feel that connection, to feel the weight of the legacy you are part of. The battle may be over, but the journey continues. The stories will be told, and you will be remembered. And that, in the end, is the greatest victory of all. The day continues its slow progress, and with each passing hour, the atmosphere around the camp seems to shift. There's a sense of resolution in the air now, a quiet acceptance that the battle is behind you. It's not the victorious fanfare you might expect, nor is it the mourning of a tragic loss. It's a feeling of completion, as if everything has come full circle, and now it's time to move forward. It's the realization that your place in the grand cycle of life, death, and rebirth is firmly set. The battle was a moment in time, a moment that has now passed, but the journey continues. As you gather your things and prepare for the next phase of the journey, you notice the faces of your comrades. They are not as they were before the battle. There's something different in their eyes now, something deeper. The weight of the fight has settled in, but so has the quiet pride that comes with surviving it. They are not the same warriors who stepped onto the battlefield the day before. The journey has changed them as it has changed you. There's a silent understanding between you and them, something that can't be expressed in words, but can only be felt in the quiet moments that follow. You are brothers, bound not just by blood and battle, but by the shared experience of something much larger. The bond between you and your comrades is something that can never be broken. The Vikings understood this bond better than most. It wasn't just about the blood spilled in battle, but about the shared experiences, the rituals, and the understanding that you were all part of something greater than yourselves. This bond was what made them formidable in battle, but it was also what made them unshakable in life. They fought not just for themselves, but for each other and for the legacy they would leave behind. The battle was one part of that journey, but it was the camaraderie, the brotherhood, that would carry them through the hardest times. Historians still debate the nature of Viking brotherhood. Some suggest that it was rooted in the practicality of survival, that the Vikings, living in a harsh world, had no choice but to rely on each other for survival. Others argue that the bond was more spiritual, a reflection of the Viking warriors' deep connection to the gods and to the larger forces that shaped their lives. Either way, it's clear that the Vikings saw their fellow warriors as more than just comrades. They were brothers, bound by shared experience and mutual respect. This bond, this brotherhood, was what allowed them to face even the most terrifying battles with unwavering resolve. As the day progresses, the quiet reflection of the morning gives way to the next step in the journey. The warriors begin to gather their gear, ready to move on. The battle may be over, but the war is never truly finished. For a Viking, they understand that the cycles of life and death continue, that every battle is but one chapter in the larger saga of existence. And so they press forward, never losing sight of their place in the grand narrative. The sun moves across the sky, casting long shadows over the camp as you gather your things and prepare for the next stage. There's a sense of finality to the preparations, as if this moment of reflection, of calm, is the last before the next challenge arrives. The Vikings knew this feeling all too well. They knew that every victory was followed by the need to press on, to face new challenges, and to continue their journey. In these quiet moments before the next step, you find yourself thinking about the future. What lies ahead for you? What new challenges, new battles, new victories will you face? There's a sense of both anticipation and acceptance. The fear that once held you back is gone, replaced by a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are prepared. The runes, the rituals, the bond of brotherhood, they have all shaped you, molded you into a Viking warrior who is ready to face whatever comes next. Historians often note that the Viking warrior didn't view life as a linear progression. They didn't see it as a series of events leading to one end. They saw it as a series of cycles, each one connected to the last, and each one carrying with it the lessons of the past. For the Viking warrior, the end of one battle didn't signify the end of their journey. It was merely the next step, the next chapter in an ongoing saga. Every victory, every loss, every moment was part of the larger story, and every warrior was a part of that story, leaving their mark on history in ways both large and small. As you prepare to move on, you take a moment to glance at the horizon, to the future that awaits. The journey may be long, and the challenges may be great, but you are ready. You are a Viking warrior, and your story is far from over. The rituals, the runes, the bond of brotherhood, they are all part of your legacy, the legacy of a warrior who has faced fear, embraced death, and lived with honor. The story you are living is one that will be told for generations, passed down in sagas, in songs, and in the hearts of those who follow in your footsteps. You may not know what the future holds, but you know this: you are ready to face it. With every step, you are walking the path of the Viking warrior, strong, resilient, and unshakable. The battle may be over, but the journey is far from finished, and with each passing day, you carry the legacy of those who came before you, those who lived and fought with honor, who embraced life and death with equal resolve. The day marches on, and with each step, you move further from the battle's aftermath. The warriors around you are picking up the pieces of their lives, resettling into the routine that comes after the chaos. It's strange how quickly the world seems to return to its rhythm after a storm. The horses are being fed, the weapons are cleaned, and the fires are stoked to prepare for another meal. The bustle of everyday life begins to reclaim the camp, and with it, the realization that there is always more to be done. The battle is over, but the journey, like the cycle of life itself, continues. The Vikings understood this better than anyone. They knew that even after the greatest of victories, the fight didn't end. The world was ever changing, and so they moved forward, always preparing for the next challenge, the next trial. They didn't let the victories define them. They let the process of living, the pursuit of glory, and the search for meaning define their lives. Every victory, every conquest was simply part of a much larger story. A story they were writing not just for themselves, but for future generations to remember. Historians often point to the relentless forward motion of Viking culture. For them, life was not about stagnation, but about continuous growth, battle, and adaptation. Every day was a chance to prove oneself, to live with purpose. They didn't wait for life to come to them. They made it happen, shaping the world around them in the process. Whether it was through raids, exploration, or craftsmanship, the Vikings were always moving, always striving for more. And even now, as you sit with your comrades and watch the camp come to life around you, you can't help but feel that same drive within you. You've faced battle, you've survived, but there is still more ahead. The victory of yesterday is behind you, but the drive to live, to experience, to leave a mark on the world continues to grow. The Vikings didn't sit idle in the aftermath of a fight. They lived every moment with purpose, knowing that the battles they fought were just one step on a long, winding journey. There were always more to face, more to conquer, and more to learn. The key was to never stop moving forward, to never stop striving for something greater than yourself. As you take stock of your gear, you realize that you've become more than just a warrior. The battle has shaped you, but so too has the time you've spent in quiet reflection, in the rituals of preparation, in the bonds of brotherhood. These moments, these moments of peace after chaos, are just as important as the fight itself. They allow you to center yourself, to remember why you fight, to honor those who've fallen, and to strengthen the ties that bind you to those who stand by your side. The lessons you've learned, the strength of the runes, the power of ritual, the bond of brotherhood, are more than just tools for battle. They are the foundation of your life as a Viking. They are the compass by which you navigate not just the chaos of war, but the chaos of life itself. And now, as you prepare to move on, you understand that each challenge, each battle, is simply a part of your journey. Your purpose is not just to fight, it is to live with meaning, to live with honor, and to leave a legacy that will endure long after your time has passed. Historians often focus on the brutality of Viking life, the raids, the pillaging, the bloodshed, but they often miss the deeper truths about Viking culture. The Vikings were not mindless warriors. They were a people deeply connected to the world around them, to their gods, and to each other. They saw life as a journey, not just a series of isolated events. And it is this journey, this understanding of the continuous flow of life, that gave them the strength to endure, to thrive, and to leave a lasting mark on the world. As you saddle your horse and prepare to leave the camp, you feel that sense of purpose return to you. The battle is over, but the road ahead is still long. There will be more challenges, more battles, and more moments of fear and doubt. But now, you are ready. You have faced the chaos, the unknown, and emerged stronger. You have learned the lessons of the runes, the power of ritual, and the importance of brotherhood. And with these lessons, you can face whatever lies ahead with confidence. Historians often describe the Vikings as fierce warriors who conquered and ravaged the lands they traveled. But they were more than that. They were explorers, adventurers, creators of culture, and builders of legacies. They were people who understood that life was not just about surviving, it was about living with purpose. The Vikings didn't just fight to win, they fought to understand the world, to shape it, and to leave their mark on it. And now, as you prepare to continue your journey, you know that this is your chance to do the same. The journey of the Viking warrior is far from over. It stretches across time and space, through the rituals, the battles, and the moments of peace. The legacy you carry forward will be felt long after you're gone, through the stories, the sagas, and the memories of those who follow. This is the Viking way, the way of warriors who embrace life with purpose, who face death with honor, and who leave behind a legacy that lasts for all eternity. The road ahead seems endless, stretching out before you like the horizon itself, vast, uncharted, and full of possibility. The camp is behind you now, and as you ride, the weight of the past few days begins to settle deeper within you. The feeling of peace that follows battle is never permanent, is it? It's as if that peace is just a brief respite before the next challenge arrives. But you're ready for it. The journey has only just begun. As the sun climbs higher, you pass through forests that seem to hum with life, their quiet solitude offering the same kind of calm that nature has always provided. The land stretches before you, familiar yet new, and in this solitude, you find something deeper than rest. You find the understanding that this journey, this unceasing forward motion, is the essence of what it means to be a Viking. The cycle of preparation, battle, and reflection is endless. You have fought, you have reflected, and now, once more, it is time to move forward. The Vikings never stopped moving. Even when the battles were won, when the land had been conquered, they continued onward. Their ships would dock at new shores. Their warriors would face new challenges, and their stories would continue to unfold. Historians note that the Viking raids were not mere acts of plunder. They were steps in a greater adventure, a pursuit of knowledge, wealth, and influence that stretched beyond the horizons of their world. For the Vikings, life was about seeking more than just victory. It was about the quest, the journey, and the legacy they built through every action, every moment. As you ride, you are reminded of the Viking spirit that drove them to explore and conquer vast lands. But it wasn't only the desire for riches or glory that spurred them on. It was the quest for something deeper. The Vikings believed that their actions in this life would determine their place in the afterlife, in Valhalla, where they would continue to fight and feast with Odin and the gods. To them, every battle was a step toward earning that eternal reward. They didn't just fight for survival or to secure land. They fought to prove their worth, to carve their names into the annals of history. And in that, They found a sense of purpose that transcended the mundane. But the true power of the Viking journey wasn't just in the wars they fought. It was in the way they viewed themselves as part of a greater cycle. They were not just isolated individuals battling for personal gain. They were part of the cosmic flow of life, death, and rebirth. Every victory, every loss, every ritual, every sacrifice was seen as part of the larger narrative of existence. In this way, the Vikings found meaning not just in the end result of their actions, but in the actions themselves. The journey, the fight, the preparation, these were the things that defined them, and in this, they found peace, even in the midst of the chaos. Historians still debate the spiritual practices of the Vikings. Some argue that the connection to the gods was a deeply ingrained part of their culture, one that shaped every decision they made, every action they took. Others suggest that their belief in the gods was more symbolic, a way to understand and cope with the harsh realities of their world. Regardless of the exact nature of their beliefs, it's clear that the Vikings saw themselves as part of a much larger story. Their actions were not just personal, they were communal, spiritual, and cosmic. And this understanding of their place in the world gave them strength, purpose, and the courage to face death with honor. As you journey forward, you understand that the battle you fought, the victory you won, is just one chapter in the ongoing saga of life. There are more battles ahead, more challenges to face, and more lessons to learn. But each moment is a step forward in the larger journey. The journey of a Viking warrior, one who faces life with purpose, who embraces death with honor, and who lives to leave a legacy that will endure. The road ahead is still long, and the world is vast, but with every step, you move closer to the understanding that the journey itself is the greatest reward. It is the journey that shapes you, that molds you into the warrior you're meant to be. And as you ride, you feel a sense of pride swell within you, not just in the victory you've won, but in the knowledge that you are part of something much larger than yourself. You are a part of the Viking way, a way that transcends time, a way that lives on in the sagas and stories that will be told long after you're gone. Historians often emphasize the Viking thirst for conquest, the unrelenting drive to explore new lands and claim new territories. But the Vikings weren't just conquerors. They were storytellers, seers, and philosophers who understood the importance of legacy. They knew that the true value of a life well lived was not measured in wealth or power, but in the stories that would endure. And this is the essence of the Viking journey. It's not about how long you live, but how you live and what you leave behind. Your actions, your honor, your legacy, these are the things that will carry you through, that will carry the stories of your life forward through the generations. As you ride into the horizon, you carry with you the lessons of the past, the runes, the rituals, the bond of brotherhood, and you know that no matter what the future holds, you are ready to face it. The Viking warrior never stops moving. The journey is endless, and you are part of it. The battle is never truly over, but it's in the journey that the true warrior is made. The sun is now descending, casting long shadows over the land as you continue your journey. The silence of the wilderness surrounds you, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind and the steady rhythm of your horse's hooves on the earth. The world feels vast, endless even, and you find yourself thinking back to the moments you spent by the fire with your comrades, the brotherhood that held you together through the most difficult of times. Even in the solitude of the road, you carry that sense of unity with you. The Viking way was never just about personal strength or glory. It was about the collective strength of the group. The warriors, the seers, the craftsmen, the women, and the children, they all played their part in the greater story. The sense of duty to your kin, to your community, was as strong as any sword, as important as any battle won. As you ride, you remember that the Vikings weren't simply conquerors. They were builders, creators, and sustainers. The roads they traveled weren't just paths to new lands, but roads to new opportunities, new cultures, and new stories to be written. Historians often talk about the Vikings as warriors, raiders, and explorers, but they fail to capture the complexity of their social structures. The Viking society was built on mutual dependence, a sense of shared responsibility that stretched far beyond the battlefield. As you journey forward, you understand that your role as a warrior is only one part of a much larger equation. You fight not only for yourself, but for the people you leave behind, for the families and communities that will continue long after the battle ends. Your strength and honor are part of the foundation on which your people stand. As you move further into the wilderness, you reflect on the history of the Vikings, their long voyages across the seas, their ability to carve out a place in the world against the odds, their relentless pursuit of what they believed was their destiny. They were not a people who waited for life to come to them. They took life on their terms, carving their path through the world like their longships cut through the waves. But they also understood that to survive and thrive, they needed more than just swords and shields. They needed knowledge, trade, cooperation, and the courage to adapt to new worlds. You can feel the weight of that legacy as you ride. The Vikings built their empires not just through battle, but through an understanding of the world that was both practical and mystical. They respected the land, the sea, the stars, and the gods. They understood that the natural world was a force to be reckoned with, that it could give life, but also take it away. They didn't conquer for the sake of conquest. They built and created, expanded and adapted, and above all, they lived with purpose. Their wars were always part of something larger, a way to ensure their future and protect their people. Historians have long debated the Viking approach to war. Some suggest that they were motivated by a desire for wealth, by a need to prove themselves on the world stage. Others argue that they were driven by a deep spiritual connection to the land and their gods. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in between. The Vikings were not mindless raiders. They were strategic, thoughtful, and deeply connected to the world around them. They fought for survival, but they also fought to honor their ancestors, to secure a future for their children, and to fulfill their roles in the ongoing saga of their people. As you continue your journey, you realize that your role, too, is part of a larger story. You are a link in the chain, one warrior among many, each of you playing your part in a greater cycle. This understanding doesn't make you feel small. It makes you feel connected, part of something that stretches across time and space. The stories of the past, the lessons learned by those who came before you, are now a part of you. The warriors who fought by your side, the ancestors who fought before them, they are with you every step of the way. The night begins to fall as you make camp for the evening, and you take a moment to reflect on the road ahead. The journey may be long, and there will be challenges ahead, but you are ready. You have faced battle, you have lived with honor, and you have learned the lessons that the Vikings have passed down through generations. You understand that the battle is not just against enemies in the field. It's against the chaos of the world, against the forces of fate, and against the fear that lurks in the heart. And with the strength of your ancestors, with the power of the runes and the wisdom of the gods, you know you can face whatever comes next. Historians often talk about the Viking sense of destiny, about how they believed they were chosen by the gods to carry out their will. Whether or not this belief was literal is still up for debate, but what is clear is that the Vikings had a profound sense of purpose. They believed that their actions, their courage, and their honor would define their place in the world, both in this life and the next. And as you sit by the fire, looking out at the land before you, you can feel that same sense of purpose deep within you. You are part of something larger. You are part of the Viking way. The fire crackles before you, and the shadows of your comrades dance on the ground around you. As you reflect on the path that led you here, you realize that the journey is not just about the end. It's about the process. It's about living with honor, embracing the chaos, and finding peace in the midst of it all. And with that understanding, you feel a sense of calm settle over you, knowing that you are on the right path. The journey continues, and with each step, you become more a part of the legacy of the Vikings. The battle may have ended, but the warrior's journey is never over. The night deepens, and the stars stretch across the sky like a tapestry of ancient wisdom. The same stars that guided Viking navigators across treacherous seas. The same stars that witnessed the rise and fall of empires. As you sit in the quiet of the night, the world around you feels vast and eternal, just like the journey you are on. It's a strange feeling to know that you are part of a story that spans centuries. Your place in the cycle is small, but it is significant, like a single thread in a great tapestry, woven with the stories of those who came before and those who will follow after. The flickering fire before you casts its warm glow over the camp, but it's the quiet in the air, the stillness of the moment that holds your attention. There's something almost sacred about these quiet nights after a battle. It's as if the world is holding its breath, giving you time to reflect, to process the journey so far, and to prepare for the next chapter. You think about the past, the battles you've fought, the rituals you've performed, the camaraderie shared with your brothers, and then about the future. The road ahead is uncertain, as it always has been, but the warrior's way is clear. Continue forward, embrace what comes next, and leave a legacy that will endure. Historians have often pointed out that the Viking warrior wasn't just concerned with his own survival. He was focused on the survival of his people, his legacy, and the future generations that would carry his story forward. The Vikings understood that life wasn't just about individual glory, it was about the collective good, about building something greater than oneself. The Viking way wasn't just about battle, it was about living with honor, embracing the unknown, and leaving something behind that would live on for eternity. Whether in the songs of the Skalds, the stories passed down from generation to generation, or the very land they shaped, the Vikings ensured their place in history by living a life that mattered. The Viking warriors, despite their fierce reputation, weren't just mindless fighters. They were thinkers, creators, and visionaries. They understood the importance of knowledge, of exploration, of pushing the boundaries of the known world. Their raids weren't just about plunder, they were about learning, adapting, and expanding their horizons. The Vikings didn't just conquer, they integrated, built, and evolved. They traveled to lands far beyond their own, bringing back new ideas, technologies, and ways of life that would shape the future of Europe and beyond. As you sit by the fire, you realize that this is what being a Viking warrior truly means. It's not about what you fight for in the moment, but about how you live and what you leave behind. The Vikings didn't just leave behind battlefields. They left behind a culture, a way of life that would inspire generations. They built a world that was constantly moving forward, constantly seeking new horizons. And now, as you sit here, a part of that legacy, you understand that you too are part of something much greater than yourself. The winds pick up as you finish your meal, and you take a moment to look around the camp. The warriors, your brothers, are quietly going about their tasks. Some are preparing their gear, others are speaking softly, but all of them carry the same quiet strength you feel deep within yourself. It's not the brashness of youth, the thrill of victory, or the boastful pride of the victorious that fills the air. It's something much deeper, something unspoken. It's the understanding that the journey never truly ends. There's always more to do, more to learn, more to live for. The road ahead will have its challenges, but you know now that the true test is not in the battle itself, but in how you face what comes after. It's about how you continue to move forward, how you continue to live with honor, and how you carry the lessons of the past with you into the future. The Vikings were not just defined by their battles, they were defined by the legacy they left behind, by the culture they built, and by the way they faced both life and death with a steadfast heart. And now, you are part of that legacy. You are part of the story that will be told for centuries to come. Historians have noted the Viking emphasis on storytelling, on the importance of passing down knowledge, wisdom, and culture through the generations. The Vikings didn't just live for themselves, they lived for the future. They knew that their actions would shape the world for generations. And that's why they lived with such purpose. Every battle, every ritual, every journey was a step in the creation of a legacy that would outlast them all. And now, you understand that you too are a part of that legacy. Your story will be told, just as the stories of the great warriors who came before you are still sung today. As the fire burns low and the night grows darker, you allow yourself a moment of quiet reflection. The journey is far from over. There will be more battles, more struggles, and more victories to come. But for now, you rest, knowing that you are part of something that transcends time, that you are living a life that will echo through the ages. The Viking way, the way of courage, honor, and resilience, is not just something of the past. It's something you carry with you now, something you live every day. And as you close your eyes, the quiet hum of the night fills your ears, and you feel the weight of your ancestors' presence around you. You are a Viking warrior, and your journey is part of the eternal cycle. Tomorrow will come with its own challenges, but for tonight, you rest. Tomorrow, you rise again.